what if your thoughts, decisions, and desires were never entirely your own? You might believe you make independent choices, but beneath the surface, subtle forces are at work, guiding you, shaping your opinions, and steering your actions without you ever realizing it. Have you ever suddenly changed your mind about something but couldn't quite explain why? Have you felt drawn to an idea, a product, or a person without knowing what made them so compelling? That wasn't an accident. It was persuasion in its most powerful form, the kind that operates in whispers, not commands. The most effective influence doesn't feel like influence at all. It makes you believe you came to the conclusion on your own. The most effective persuasion isn't about shouting the loudest or demanding compliance. It works through subtlety, through whispers rather than commands, through the quiet manipulation of emotions and perception. The world's most influential figures, politicians, marketers, leaders, don't force people to follow them. They make people want to. And the most fascinating part, most of the time, those being influenced never realize it's happening. A key to this invisible persuasion lies in the illusion of choice. People naturally resist being told what to do, but when given a set of options, especially when all of them ultimately serve the persuader's goal, resistance vanishes. Imagine a restaurant menu carefully designed to make you order the highest margin dish, or a political debate framed in a way that no matter which stance you choose, the overarching narrative remains intact. The skillful persuader doesn't push people in a direction. They simply make the desired path seem like the one they were always meant to take. But choice alone isn't enough. Logic, while valuable, rarely drives decisions. We like to think we're rational creatures, that we make choices based on facts, evidence, and careful thought. Yet, in reality, emotions run the show. Fear, desire, nostalgia, pride. These are the forces that move us. The best persuaders don't try to convince you with cold logic. Instead, they evoke a feeling so strong that your own mind justifies the decision afterward. A political leader doesn't need to prove every point with airtight logic. If they can make you feel a sense of urgency, hope, or outrage, your brain will fill in the gaps. Then comes repetition. The human brain is wired to equate familiarity with truth. The more often we hear something, the more likely we are to believe it. This is why propaganda works. It's why advertising slogans are drilled into our heads. It's why politicians repeat the same phrases over and over. You don't need to hear something complex or profound. Just hearing something enough times is often enough to make it feel like reality. And before long, what was once a mere suggestion becomes a deeply held belief. But what happens when persuasion is so subtle that it doesn't even feel like persuasion? This is the power of suggestion. A thought doesn't need to be pushed onto you, it just needs to be introduced. Once an idea is planted in your mind, it has a way of taking root, growing, and reinforcing itself until it feels like something you arrived at naturally. Ever noticed how a certain trend, opinion, or belief suddenly starts to just make sense after repeated exposure? That's not a coincidence. And of course, authority plays a crucial role. People tend to trust those who appear knowledgeable, confident, or credible, even when the information itself is questionable. A simple uniform, a title, or an assured tone of voice can bypass skepticism and make people more receptive to influence. A doctor in a white coat, a best-selling author, a charismatic leader, these figures don't need to prove their points with endless evidence. Their perceived authority does the work for them. Perhaps the most unsettling aspect of covert persuasion is how effortlessly it can shape the world around us. History is filled with examples of mass influence, from political propaganda that steered entire nations to advertising campaigns that changed the way we think about beauty, health, and success. The best persuaders don't force. They create an environment where their message feels natural, inevitable, even self-evident. And once someone believes they arrived at an idea on their own, they will defend it with conviction. So the real question isn't whether you're being influenced, it's how often and by whom, and more importantly, how can you recognize it when it's happening? The more you understand these principles, the less susceptible you become. But knowledge of persuasion isn't just a shield, it's also a tool. When used ethically, it can help build trust, strengthen relationships, and inspire action in ways that feel organic rather than forced. The next time you make a decision, take a moment. Ask yourself, was this truly my choice? Or did someone, somewhere, quietly lead me here?